that every manifestation of corruption begins in a single mind. And this is why it's important to trace the genealogy of ideas. We can probably also say that every great development in history begins in a single heart. I'm not sure if that's true. Maybe because good is so big and so abundant. But certainly in the case of evil, the evil developments usually go back to a single heart, a single mind. And in any case, we're going to refer to some of the minds in the West, and I guess I should be much more careful about what I'm saying, because a lot of the people who trigger the development of modernism in the West, we can't call them evil people. Some of them we can, but a lot of them are people who are geniuses, very, very gifted, probably having good intentions, but they undermine things in the process of doing what they do. We say, Zallatul alim, Zallatul alam. The alim is the scholar and the alam is the world. When the scholar slips, the whole world falls down. And so therefore, when we look at the rise of modernism, we look at people like Descartes, who was a brilliant man, and we certainly don't want to say that he was an evil man. I wouldn't dare to say that. And you look at people like Kant, the German philosopher who will come after Descartes, and Kant does have some very problematic aspects to his writing and his intentions and his psychologies. But basically, if you were to ask Kant, what did you want to do when you said about intellect what you said and you essentially undermined intellect, he would say, I was trying to defend Newton. So this was Kant's main goal, that he wanted to defend Newtonian physics against what? The skepticism of David Hume, who was a Scottish philosopher who was a complete empiricist, and in his honesty as a complete empiricist, a person who relies only on experience, he knew that we can't say even that cause and effect actually exists. And here he takes a position very similar to Imam al-Ghazali, although very different at the same time. It's not identical to Imam al-Ghazali or to the Ash'ari tradition, but it's quite similar in some ways, and Hume is probably affected by al-Ghazali and the Ash'ari tradition. But Hume becomes a skeptic. We don't become skeptics. We base what we say on a firm belief in God. In any case, you have to look, where do these ideas come from? And especially if you want to talk about what has been called the sexual revolution of the last 50 years, this did not just drop out of the sky. And this is not just men and women who are free and doing what they want to do. This was carefully programmed over more than 150 years. And it has a lot to do with Marxism and the development of Marxist thought and other ideas in the 19th century. And in fact, if you were to look at the way that the gender debate and the sexuality debate has developed in the West today, let's say in the last 20 years, that was all marked out in great detail in the 19th century and the early 20th century. The homosexuality and everything, all marked out. And this was to overthrow the tyranny of heterosexuality. And ultimately, it must lead to things like destroying the taboo of incest. A'udhu billah. That's what they say. It won't stop here. It's got to go to the taboo of incest and overthrow that. Even pedophilia, for a lot of these people, is regarded as something that will be allowed ultimately. The important thing is that it's very essential for us to study those ideas. Where do they come from? How did they develop?